Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in again this week. We're excited to bring another industry professional to you, this time from the sports world. I cannot wait to learn more about this career path. So let's go ahead and get started. Chelsea, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to see everybody.
Yes, we are excited that you're here. Would you mind taking just a few minutes to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
Great. Well, my name is Chelsea Zahn. That's Z as in zebra, AHN. I am from the Steel City, the city of champions, the city of Three Rivers, that is Pittsburg, Pennsylvania. I grew up 20 minutes south of Pittsburgh in a little town called Canonsburg. Not sure if anybody's had any Saris chocolate, but that's what our town is known for. But yeah, I work for the Pittsburgh Steelers, home of the six-time champs. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get number 7 this year, but there's always next year, right? I work in our sponsorship department as a partnership activation manager, which basically just means that we are selling sponsorships to certain companies like Ford, Heinz, FedEx, and I'm the person that manages the signage, the marketing, the advertising that this company has within our Steelers platforms.
That sounds like such an exciting career. Number one, to be able to work for the Steelers, but also to really kind of see behind the scenes. I know many of our students have probably been to games, whether it be college or professional sports, and they've probably seen signs from sponsors, but never really thought about how those actually got there. So could you tell us a little bit about what your daily activities look like? When you wake up in the morning and get started on your work day, what are some of the things that you do?
Sure. Well, the easy answer is it's different every single day, which is my favorite part about the job. Um, Obviously, a lot of people think that the NFL season is really just from August to Super Bowl, right? However, in my department in sponsorship, we are selling sponsorships for 12 months out of the year, which makes my job incredibly busy 365 days a year. We work weekends because we have to work those games, right? We work some additional events, but our schedule is obviously more advantageous compared to a baseball schedule or a NBA schedule. To be honest, it's a little too long for me as far as the hundreds of games that those leagues have. But it's different because I manage about 25 different partnership accounts, and they all have different ways of advertising. They have different events in their partnerships. They have different signage, different marketing campaigns that I have to coordinate. For example, a couple of times a year, I usually manage a video shoot with a certain partner if they want to film at Heinz Field or work with one of our Steelers players. But on the other hand, I might be coming up with a creative campaign through our social channels or studying our email marketing messaging and how we can better attract a fan to click that email. So there's definitely a lot of variety to this job, and you don't necessarily need all of the experience coming into it, but you definitely learn a lot once you're finally in.
Yeah, it sounds like you get to use a lot of creativity with your job too.
Oh, yeah. But which is, again, something I never really anticipated. But, having a skill set in Photoshop and Adobe Premiere with some video production and just having general interest to, again, how can I attract a fan to interact with our sponsored marketing is just a really fascinating thing and really drives a passion for the role.
Yeah, that sounds so exciting. So I know you've talked about your role here where you are now, but could you tell us a little bit about your journey of how you got here? So from high school to now, what did that journey look like for you?
Feels like a million days ago. So I was, a very busy high schooler. I was in band, in the marching band, symphonic, jazz, everything you could think of. But I was always a track athlete as well for about 10 years leading up to college. And for anybody's asking, I threw discus, shot put, hammer, and javelin. I was not a jumper or runner. But that's essentially what got me into college was my track and field experience. And I went off to Duquesne University and started out as an advertising major, but didn't really click with that. met with a professor who said, hey, we have a sports marketing degree. And what better town to have a sports marketing degree in with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Steelers, and Pirates, along with Pitt and obviously Duquesne and some other schools here. So I switched over, and it was a lot more business focused versus like the creative major courses that come with an advertising degree. But I eventually found an internship that stuck with me for a few years. I worked as a marketing director for the Pittsburgh Passion women's tackle football team that we have here in Pittsburgh. There are about 30 other teams across the league that all compete against each other. And I had the freedom to run their website, to help them sell tickets, to put videos together by interviewing the players. So I was able to be creative in having all these different skill sets that ultimately attracted the Pittsburgh Steelers my senior year at Duquesne. I got a call to interview with them to be a marketing intern for the Steelers, and was able to just become memorable by some of the networking that I was doing in the office, and got called back again after I graduated to interview for a position in sponsorship, where I was the assistant for the sponsorship team, helping them with anything that I could. And that eventually turned into a full-time position. And now I'm talking to you guys today.
I can imagine networking is a huge part of your job. But one thing that we always like to tell students is networking is such a skill that any career path, you're going to need it in order to be successful. Could you talk a little bit about maybe some of your own networking strategies? How do you make that initial contact and build that relationship?
It's a great question. Just being a curious person and being an outgoing person. I think networking can be a little intimidating. For my own example, I did not network enough when I was in college. I kind of put all my eggs in one basket, working for this women's tackle football team. And although I was networking with other businesses and, other teams, and, I was essentially networking with the Steelers, some of it just really wasn't enough to, get attracted to get other jobs or open other job opportunities up for myself. And now that I'm in this role today, my job also represents a level of client service, right? I'm managing these partnerships. I'm working with a couple of people at Heinz. I'm working with a couple of people at Ford. I'm working with a couple of people at Pepsi. And, I need to be an approachable person. Mm-hmm. I need to be curious, in order to ask good questions, to learn more about their products or their services, because that in turn helps me provide better recommendations from a marketing advertising standpoint. But also, I'm just genuinely curious about human beings and where they come from and what they do and how they got there. Just like you guys are kind of doing with me today, right? But networking is a huge thing that, obviously isn't for everybody, but if it's a weakness that you have, make it into a strength, because I can tell you time and time again, when we hire for these positions, we always end up hiring people when they have reached out to us separately and had a phone conversation with us, or maybe we met them 6 months prior and had a couple of hours with them and really got to know what type of person they are. You can't always pick up those skills from interviews. Mm-hmm. So again, I guess have that approach of, you never really know who's watching you, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Take your personality and implement it in everyday conversation and see what happens.
Oh my goodness, that is such great advice. And, there's so many different ways to network, but really letting your personality show through and not being afraid to make that contact and step outside of the comfort zone. I know that's hard to do sometimes, but so important in networking. My next question that I have for you is, you talked a little bit about your professional journey, and I'm sure just like everyone else along the way, you've encountered some obstacles that you've had to overcome. Could you talk a little bit about how you've overcome obstacles in your own journey, and maybe some advice for students of how they can overcome any obstacles that inevitably they're probably going to face at some point in their life?
Sure. And I guess I can speak to anybody that is an athlete or is in band. You've probably had the experience of having to work together with others, right? And I think for me, it was always a little bit frustrating because I had a level of a high standard, right? I wanted to be number one, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a level of, hey, I want to be the most knowledgeable or the best trumpet player, or, I want to have the best performance at my track meet on Saturday. And, sometimes that's not well received with other people, right? It might intimidate them, or they might think that you're cocky, right? But it's not. Just always remember that it's confidence. And you'll see in your college careers and beyond that confidence usually supersedes, a level of being shy or not being confident, right? So, when I was in college, I struggled a little bit with group projects, right? And how there are some people in college that take advantage of their degree and some that don't. And you have to be a solution person, right? And I didn't really know what that meant when I was in college. It was just me trying to say, all right, well, I'll take on your work in order to get this all done, which isn't always the right answer, right? But when I ended up in this position, in client services, sometimes you deal with bad customers or fans who are upset at the game. Sometimes, there's a challenge that's being presented to you. And that's really my motto, is to be a professional problem solver, right? Be a solution person. Let's not waste time fretting and getting upset about the issue. Let's just start to think creatively, think strategically about how we can provide a solution. And sometimes that solution isn't always going to please everybody. And you kind of have to, remember that you can't take that personally. But I'm all about doing the right thing and being honest, even when I'm making a mistake, because it's such a learning experience to just do it better next time. So that's really my motto, is just to be a problem solver. And anytime that situation comes up, try to think of it in that way rather than getting upset about it.
Yes, I love that you mentioned creativity with problem solving. You can definitely be creative when you're solving problems and looking for those solutions. So wonderful advice. So when thinking about you as a younger person, when you were in high school, what is something that you wish you would have known at an earlier age that might help you or benefited you for your future?
Great question. I feel like there's a long list of this. I will say my parents did not go to college. A lot of my family did not. I was one of the first to go to school. And, I didn't really have a mentor besides my science teacher, who was / my track coach, that was able to help guide me in order to be a little more professional, during a track meet, or, taught me a ton about behavior, right? Not getting upset, being a solution person, just doing it better the next time. But I will go back to this, and, it is networking. I feel like I did not connect with my teachers enough to understand the opportunities that there were with all these different colleges, or, to our discussion today, what other types of majors to go into. I was a little shy when I went to school. And again, it took me a while to discover a new major, right? And I think networking is pretty much in line with mentorship as well. If you can find a parent or an elder or a teacher or professor that can, guide you and teach you some of these experiences, right? These soft skills that you need to have to, gain better opportunities, whether that be for an interview or to network or to build up your confidence. I definitely wish I had some of that guidance when I was in high school.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned soft skills, and in thinking about teamwork and problem solving and communication, all of those would be included in soft skills, and just taking advantage of every opportunity to practice those while you're still in high school. It's never too early to start developing those skills.
Never. And again, half the time you don't even realize that you're doing those things, or you're learning them, or that you're bad at them, or you're good at them. And again, I would just challenge everybody, when you get to that point where you're, confident about who you are and who you want to be, try to bring some self-awareness to, who you are and what you want to be, in order to communicate those soft skills. Because in interviews for jobs or internships, they're obviously going to ask you about the experience that you have, but there's a lot of questions being asked around how well do you work with others? What are some of your strengths? What are some of your weaknesses? Anything around soft skills is a really good aspect to know about yourself and to be able to communicate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we have students that are watching today that are interested in a career in the sports industry, or maybe even more specifically what you do, what would be some actionable advice that they could do right now while they're still in high school to help prepare them for that kind of future?
Sure. So just to give a little more description on my major, I'm specifically a sports marketing major, which just has more courses in college around marketing and advertising, very similar to kind of what you guys might be learning now in high school. There's also a sports management major, which the way I interpret that is more of like becoming an athletic director or becoming a sports agent, or being a coach. But both majors have a lot of similarities. I work with a couple of people who did sports management, a couple of the colleges around here. But I liked sports marketing just a little bit more because it was, again, more creative. I got to take more classes on Photoshop and video productions, study more things like social media and such. But with that being said, I would recommend when you go on these college tours, even if you're lightly interested in sports management or sports marketing, see if you can talk to any students during your tour. Again, if you have the ability to talk to students, that's the best way to get the most honest feedback on, what that school is offering, or maybe some of the internships that they have. There's also a couple of sports marketing association groups that you guys will discover in college that you can be a part of that really just give you a leverage to network again with more professionals in the industry. I sometimes go back to Duquesne and speak to some of these classes and really reach my arms out to say, hey, connect with me, call me, ask me questions, anything that you want to know. Because again, I wish I had these resources just a short 10 years ago. Would have been really great and definitely would have instilled some more confidence in me.
Yeah. And I think just doing it, like taking advantage of the resources that are available and seeking out opportunities to grow. I mean, it's never too young to start planning and preparing for your future. So now we have a couple of questions from students. I love some of these questions. They are great. The first one is, do you get to attend and enjoy the games, or are you working during the games?
It's a little bit of both. I go back to it's different every single week. So just to talk pre-pandemic here,
Yeah.
I was working every single home game at Heinz Field where I was, again, managing some activations. I was interacting with clients in the suite. I was going out on the field and running an event that we were having during halftime. It was all very different every weekday, which was exciting. And then for the away games, sometimes because, again, we're in client services, we will host clients on away trips and we'll take them to places like Arizona to watch the Cardinals game. And then we'll host them for a weekend of, I don't know, dinner, golf, different activities that we're doing on Friday and Saturday, which is always, again, such a cool experience to get to know these CEOs and, to learn more about their business, which is a really neat experience. But pandemic, we definitely had to re-strategize, right? How we were going to work on game days. I mean, obviously the on-site experiences, activities, hosting clients, that was all eliminated here in Pittsburgh. But we still had to manage and make sure that partner advertising was still running on game day, whether that be through a digital media, TV, radio, marketing channel. And then for away games, we actually came up with a new experience to help with our clients. We hosted a opportunity to watch the game with a Steelers alumni. And it was my job essentially to host 10 people on a call. And it was cool because we got to get the perspective of the football player and what we were watching on screen and how the offense could be doing better or how great the defense was. And not only that, but to talk about past Super Bowls. So it was a really great experience for our clients. And, again, was just an example of how we had to really get creative and shift to still fulfill the things that we needed to fulfill for our clients.
Yeah, I think that's something that's so interesting. I love watching all of the creativity that has come out of the pandemic. So many of the things that we're seeing the sports industry or the entertainment industry do, I honestly think will stick around for a long time just because it's so fun to see that creativity, that problem solving come out and, please customers, please fans in a new way.
And again, I'm not sure if you guys have had the opportunity to get creative yourselves on how you've had to run your sports teams this year.
Mhm.
How do you do your pep rallies? How do you get the mascot to come out? Um, so keep that in mind as you guys go into college and apply for internships. And if you can speak to the things that you came up with that adjusted to the pandemic or became a little more virtual, but it has these results. Again, it's always so good to find little nuggets like that you can claim as your own.
That is a perfect lead into my next question. What is the most creative or fun partnership that you've ever been a part of?
I'll say this. I did a video shoot at Heinz Field uh, in 2019 where I had to help a client design the commercial because I knew the stadium very well. I knew where we could get player access. I knew what players would participate, and it was so much fun to use my experience with video production because they were like, "Oh, we want a dark tunnel for this shot and we want to use lighting here." I'm like, "I got that space. Here's this, here's that." And it was really cool. It was a long day. We had to be at Heinz Field at 4 a.m. and we did not leave until midnight. But to be the essential main, assistant director for my client's video shoot was such a cool experience. And the commercial actually was recognized by the NFL as like a best practice, if you will, for just great use of like Steelers players in the commercial and, getting messaging across to the city of Pittsburgh and who this, company was. So doing things like that is it just never feels like office work to me. It's a huge project. It's a lot of experience and a lot of work that goes into it, but that's probably been one of my most fun experiences here.
Yeah. If you have a link to that, be sure and share it with us. I'll drop it into the comments so everyone can see.
Great.
So, the next question from students is, what is the most important aspect of building a corporate partnership?
Well, every NFL team, NHL team, NBA, so on and so forth, they all have different sales strategies and different marketing strategies for their partnerships. And what we do here at the Steelers is, when we're talking to a company and we're trying to attract a company, we want to say, hey, what are some of the challenges that you're experiencing in marketing? Let's say, for example, hey, Pepsi needs to sell this many Pepsis in a matter of 12 months. Well, how can we get creative and help you, drive sales? So, one of the ideas that, we obviously came up with them is, to partner up with Juju Smith-Schuster and to have him be a endorsement or an attention grabber of Steelers fans to say, hey, I support Pepsi. I'm aligned with Pepsi, so you should too.
Mhm.
And again, a big part of our job is to measure fan behavior. And something unique is we know that, 3/4 of our fans will go out of the way to buy a product that has a Steelers logo on it. Steelers logo is one of the most recognized logos in the world. So um, that's essentially what we are always trying to do is identify the challenges that a brand has. How can we use our tools, our marketing, advertising, our expertise, and come up with a creative partnership that can result in return on investment or driving sales of Pepsi.
So, in thinking about return on investment, how do you guys determine? I'm sure there's so many different data points and statistics that you review, but how do you determine whether or not a partnership is successful or valuable?
Kind of again with that strategy, we make sure that we set goals in the beginning of the partnership. So if Pepsi wants to drive this many sales, that's our goal in sponsorship, to do whatever we can to tweak the messaging or to, put more assets in the month of October or make sure that there's a radio spot for this game to really drive that. And what we do is we create these touch points throughout the season to make sure that we're talking with our partners and we're getting feedback from them on like how are Pepsi sales doing? Is there something more we can do? Is there something different that we can do? So that way at the end of the year, we have confidence to say, hey, we might not be able to control all of Pepsi's sales, but we know that we contributed to this goal and we met that goal, and both parties find it as a win-win.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's so much more than what you think about when you go to the game and see a Pepsi sign. There's so much more involved with it. It's really interesting to learn about. So the next question is, how do you decide how much a partnership or a sponsorship is worth?
Again, every team has a different evaluation for many reasons, right? And I use us as an example. The Pittsburgh Steelers are, they started in 1933. We've been to the Super Bowl a few more times than many other teams. We've won 6 Super Bowls. There's been a lot of brand equity that's been built with that legacy and that storyline. And, our motto here at the Steelers is the standard is the standard. We should be going to the playoffs every year. We should be having a 500 record or more every single year. And that same standard is on our side as well. And we definitely don't just make things up.
Yeah.
Just to be clear on that, what, again, my role is to analyze the performance of these assets, right? To make sure that we understand how many people signed up for our contests, how many people are interacting with us on our website, how many people are engaging with our social post. And what we do is we take those measurements and, we associate a rate to that performance. And then we go out and sell these partnerships in that fashion. So, the great thing and the confident thing is that we can always protect that value based on the different studies that we do and the analysis that we do throughout the year. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes things underperform, and that's fine. We, again, get creative and come up with a different solution for that. But yeah, it can get very analytical, but again, it's such an exciting part of your job when you can tell a partner, hey, you're going to see more success in fans opening this email because we know this is how many fans open our email.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of research. There's a lot of understanding your target audience, understanding your partners. All of that just built up into a nice little package. So that's all the questions that we have for you today. Thank you so much for being with us. But before we go, is there any last minute advice you want to leave with our students?
Thank you so much again for this opportunity. And I will say this, if any of you guys are on LinkedIn, and I hope people are doing that in high school, because I was not on LinkedIn in high school, please connect with me and again, use me as a resource for the next 10 years. I don't mind at all if you want to reach out to me now and then reconnect with me once you have a job, that's fine too. But I will leave you with this advice, just understand that, when you get out of high school, you are competing with many, many, many other students. And that does not mean that you're not valuable or you're not important or you're not good enough. It just means that you need to take advantage of every opportunity that you have once you're in school and, making sure you're going to class. And if you need help, speak up, and if you want more opportunities, make sure you network. To go out and get those opportunities. We have this joke about, being a sheep or being a wolf. And, again, being a wolf is not a bad thing. It's just confidence always ends up separating you from your peers. So, again, take advantage of your experiences and your opportunities and get creative with them and have fun with them and bring your personality to everything that you experience moving forward. And you'll be surprised where you end up in 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So many words of wisdom. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you so much to everyone that tuned in. Be sure and check back next week. We'll have a new industry professional and we'll see you then.
Great. Thanks, everyone. See you later.